and yet people feel unsafe. Well, this is one area of why people feel unsafe. When you go out shopping to pick up a bottle of wine for dinner, or you go to the big box store to pick up some supplies, and you have to deal with the issues that are being reported on here today, that erodes your sense of safety and security.
Wow, so I just got back from Spain and it feels like I just landed in a post-C9 apocalyptic version of Canada where the police are now actively encouraging you to report and snitch on others for mean online posts. One thing that didn't change, however, is Carney's blatant corruption, and this brand new $2.3 billion contract that was announced today will shock you, especially when you learn to whom it went. But probably not as much as this bombshell intelligence report from CBSA that was just leaked in a court proceeding that reveals just how far Canada has lost the plot and how dangerous the country has now become. But worse yet are these wild images coming out from a protest of Khalistani immigrants who did the unthinkable on our soil. My name's Ali Daniel and this is The Right Call. Like, share, subscribe, hype this video up. Any interaction on this channel helps push the truth out and maybe someday help break that CBC-induced coma that so many Canadians are under. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button because if you like the truth, you found the right place. God, this vacation was much needed. I'm so hyped up to be back and also a little bit more tan. Comment down below, did I push the tanning a little bit too far? But for now, most Canadians are under the impression that Carney backtracked on the mass migration of foreign students and shut down the door. However, as it's become way too common with Carney, that was a lie. But don't take it from me. Take it from the government of Canada itself, specifically the High Commissioner to India.
What is the message that you want to give to the Indian students amid changing visa policies and immigration?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. The reason is that there is a kind of misperception in India that Canada is shutting the doors. That is not at all the case. It's true that a couple of years ago we did impose a cap because we had issues. There simply wasn't enough housing. There were some fly-by-night colleges. We wanted to clean that up. But we've done that. And now we host 400,000 students in Canada. That's more than the EU, UK, and Australia combined. It's more than the US hosts. So my message is, number one, students are welcome. We haven't even reached those caps. So actually this is probably the best time ever to apply as an Indian student because we want you there and there's space in these caps.
Oh God, not this again. Well, it's a little bit awkward, right? Because so much for the Liberals cleaning up and helping out housing unaffordability, the crisis will persist. But this is more insidious than it seems, because a bombshell CBSA classified intelligence report was leaked through the courts. And what it reveals is damning. However, this is something that you, me, and just about every average Canadian have known for a while now, but we're gaslit into oblivion. Exclusive classified report reveals how India's Bishnoi gang uses Canada's student visa program. Nice. The top lieutenant of Indian gangster Lawrence Bishnoi, Goldie Brar, arrived in Canada in 2017. It's good to know that before 2017, we didn't have to deal with this BS. Anyways, ostensibly to attend Thompson Rivers University in Kamloops, BC. But it is unknown if he ever went to class, records show. Instead, he helped Bishnoi extend his criminal organization into Canada, allegedly instigating high-profile murders, a political assassination, and an extortion crisis. Many such cases in this country from people who don't belong here in the first place. By the way, for those who don't know, the Bishnoi gang is the gang that sent a letter to local Canadian police warning that it had over 1,000 gunmen on Canadian soil willing to fight against the police if they came after them. So a classified intelligence report obtained by Global News reveals that Bishnoi gang's Canadian franchise has relied heavily on Indian youth who, like Brar, entered the country on student visas. Written by the Canadian Border Service Agency, the report cites the gang's growing operational presence in Canada and demonstrated use of Canada's immigration programs for criminal purposes. Investigations increasingly identify Indian foreign nationals on study permits and work permits as participants in these organized criminal activities. The sustained expansion of Bishnoi-linked extortions and the involvement of student permit and work permit holders raises significant concern for CBSA operations. Although classified, a copy made public by the court shows how the government's controversial foreign student program may have contributed to Canada's Indian gang problem. Again, I love these self-inflicted problems. The government's first responsibility is to protect its citizen, and not only has it failed spectacularly at that job, but it aided and abetted the entire process of making crime and criminals welcome in the country. Like, I want you to think about this for a second. We would have been better off had the government done nothing. That's how bad it's gone. You know, if the government fails to act on something, okay, you can claim that, you know, they're just incompetent or whatever. But in this instance, it's beyond that. It's to a point where Canadians would be better off today had the government just not done anything when it came to immigration, not implemented these study permits, just kept things as the status quo. So what is the result of all of this? Well, crime by Indian student permit holders soared 8,800% between 2016 and 2024, said the report, which ranked India as the top source country of foreign students charged with crimes. It would be prudent to recognize that these statistics likely underrepresent the extent of the issue, as many crimes go undetected and unreported, it noted. Well, that makes me feel so much better. Thank you for that. I feel great. I think I was safer in Spain with the migrant crisis, which I will be talking about soon. Between 2019 and 2023, 4,000 Indian citizens who entered Canada on study permits were charged with 17,929 offenses. What the hell? Like, what the hell? That is more than 4 crimes per student who came here. Who are we allowing in? A third of the charges, of 4,920, were considered serious or organized crime related, while 97% of those offenses were deemed violent. Okay, so that's like almost a totality of the crimes committed by these foreigners is violent crime. Yeah, I would have been safer back in Spain. And we can visualize this on this beautifully plotted graph that shows that the number of Indian study permit holder charged with a criminal offense in Canada and the number of charges by year between 2016 and 2024. In business, by the way, we call this a J-curve. Or in finance as well. This is a J-curve. This is the kind of growth you'd like to have with a company, but not with crime in your country. But we all saw the shocking scenes that it's led to here in Canada. What are you shooting at, my man? What the hell is that? Oof. Okay, well, at least we know what he's shooting at on this one. Well, we got Sing Bon over here with what appears to be an AK-47. However, this is a Chinese Type 81. I own one of those, or owned one of those before it became illegal. But it seems like for them, those rules don't apply. What the hell, man? This is messed up. It pisses me off and enrages me because, again, there's no need for these people to be here. This was not like that 10 years ago. They were allowed in, and this is a total failure of the Canadian government to allow these criminals in. We went from a high-trust society to the wild, wild west in less than a decade. But you know the saying, import it, you become it. Alas, we were warned by Stephen Harper before the 2015 election.
Well, let me just correct the record on a couple of things.
Refugees are about the economy, David.
Trudeau said about refugees. First of all, the fact of the matter is we have not taken away health care from immigrants and refugees. On the contrary, the only time we've removed it is where we have clearly bogus refugee claimants who have been refused and turned down. We do not offer them a better health care plan than the ordinary Canadian can receive.
That's
I think that's
not true,
something that
Mr.
most
Harper.
new and existing and old stock Canadians agree with. On the issue of refugees, this remains one of the largest countries in the world in terms of refugee resettlement, including from Syria and Iraq.
That's not true, Mr. Harper.
I have said we will bring in more, but what I have said we will not do. You know, these guys would have had in the last 2 weeks us throwing open our borders and literally hundreds of thousands of people coming without any kind of security check or documentation.
And that's
some other
not true,
countries have
Mr.
done.
Harper.
That would have been an enormous mistake.
See,
we're following a balanced
Mr. Harper
approach. We're bringing more refugees.
Fears
all the
time.
Providing more
Fears of
humanitarian
others,
support.
fears of different communities.
And we're taking
we have a
on
prime
the
minister
terrorists
who
are
prefers
creating
to pander to
refugees.
fears.
Let's go to Mr. Mulcahy.
No, we prefer a prime minister who did not pander to foreigners and then turned our country to Scheiße. Oh, the things I would do to go back to the Canada of yesteryears, back when Canadian politics was kind of boring, because we had level-headed politicians who just did what was needed to be done, and they didn't seek to fundamentally change the entire makeup of our country. Didn't know how good we had it then. But, as it is often the case, you don't know what you have until it's gone. So what I'm about to show you is shocking, and this sadly happened on Canadian soil, something we would have never seen a decade ago. This is a kid that is bashing and hitting the effigy of Prime Minister Modi back in India. This happened during a Khalistani-led protest on Canadian soil, on our own streets. And I couldn't help but remind myself of a video I shot just last year. Modern-day Toronto has proved that multiculturalism isn't fucking working. We got people in the city protesting and literally fighting over conflicts and shit that has nothing to do with Canada. You have the Russia-Ukraine, Eritrean brawls, the Hindus and the Sikhs, the Israeli and the Palestinians, different groups segregate themselves so much that entire regions in the GTA are now dominated by a single ethnic group. Markham is the East Asian, Brampton is the South Asians, Vaughan is the Europeans, etc. People are struggling to find jobs and or places to rent simply because they don't belong to the preferred ethnic group. And that's true, by the way.
I know.
I've seen videos of guys going in to apply for jobs, and because they're not, let's say, a Sikh, they won't even be considered, which is illegal in Canada to discriminate based on your origin. But again, these people are not Canadian. They don't understand that. All these different groups don't actually like one another. They tolerate each other best and only interact when absolutely necessary. People don't come to Canada to be Canadians. They come to Canada to be whatever they were before while living in Canada. Multiculturalism has never worked. A country is nothing more than a common thread of shared cultures, beliefs, ethos, language, religion, history, and to some extent, ethnicity. Canada was founded on roots of European culture with stocks of British, Scottish, Irish, and French settlers. To that gets added the, at times contentious, but also important history of our relationship with the First Nations, which shaped the trajectory of our country. It was laid on the foundation of English and French language, Christianity as its religion, Catholic in Quebec and Anglican, Protestant in the rest of the country. This is important because it shapes how a country conducts itself, the rule of law, and the foundation of what is morally right or wrong. Immigration was never an issue in our country because the people who later came, the Polish, the Germans, the Scandinavians, etc., all shared similar basic values in spite of their different cultural background. Then later, the door was opened further. Africans, Asians, South American, once again, it worked because those who came did so with the intention of becoming Canadian, of integrating in our way of life. Not only was this done out of respect for the host country of Canada for giving them the privilege of establishing themselves here, but also because these immigrants wanted to come here for a better life and understood this very basic principle, that a better life was the result of the commonly shared culture that Canadians espoused. But now there is no integration. Rather, like I said, people come here not to be Canadian. No, they come here to be whatever the hell they were before while living in Canada. They bring with them their foreign grievances, totally unknown and quite truthfully irrelevant to the average Canadian. So back to this.
Modi! Who is the killer? 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 Modi! Who killed Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar? Modi!
Canada has no ties to India or the Khalistanis. Your foreign problems don't concern me, and quite truthfully, I don't care about them. We want Canadians to focus on Canadian issues, for we have plenty to worry about already on our home soil. I can sympathize with your struggles, but that's as far as it goes. It isn't for us to fix, nor should we allow them to come and breach our peace here domestically. I welcome people who want to become Canadians, but to do so means leaving behind whatever you fled. So getting back from Spain was a little bit of a shock because it really feels like I stepped into a dystopian post-Bill C9 Canada. Like legitimately a lot changed in 2 weeks. With police running an ad campaign asking people to report mean posts online. Like they're running this ad campaign on a public bus. See hate? Report hate. Sponsored by the Edmonton Police Service. What the hell? This is another post that the Edmonton Police published. It was a video where you can see in there examples of what to report. Like, we are letting blank take over. If you say anything, you're going to jail. Hang him slowly. Blank whiners causing the problems. It's about time for a blank. Bad drivers are always blank people. I mean, that's just called pattern recognition. So basically stuff that by all reasonable level of common sense should be protected speech. Stuff that even under the draconian C9 wording seems to be protected because hatred is defined as a intense extreme emotion involving detestation or vilification that goes beyond mere disdain or dislike. So I can say that I dislike some drivers on the road, but I cannot hate on them because that will land me in jail for life. Apparently. Not kidding, by the way. This is crazy. So I have no hate in my heart. Okay? I love everyone, but I do dislike quite a few things. And it's even crazier when you realize this is not just the Edmonton Police Service. Here you have the Durham Region Police that on its website now lists hate/bias motivated incident. And it's written as a hate/bias motivated incident involves behavior that are motivated by bias against a victim's color, race, religion, national or ethnic origin, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity expression. Basically, the rainbow. For example, disrespectful, discriminatory, or hostile speech? Again, that's called free speech. You are allowed to disagree. And insults is not hate and should not land you in jail. We should be allowed to, well, insult others. It's not nice. I don't recommend it. And I do think we should be civil towards one another and respectful and courteous and just tactful in general. But, you know, saying a slur should not land you in jail. That's a little cuckoo. And that would land, by the way, like half of threads that insults me on every single one of the videos I post. And definitely like 10% of people on Instagram and TikTok, which luckily most of them have a lot more comments. And even people here in these YouTube comments or Spotify comments, that would land you guys in jail if we actually applied exactly the definition of the Durham Regional Police. Because whenever you attack me for being whatever you claim I am, well, you are, well, disrespectful. And that's not very nice. Jail for you. Right to jail. So what a rude awakening it's been coming back to Canada. One thing, however, that didn't change over this last month is the cronyistic and despotism nature of Mark Carney.
The satellite controllers at Telesat are going to have a lot more eyes in the sky thanks to a multi-billion-dollar Canadian government contract. The Ottawa-based company is expanding its number of satellites from 156 to 225, and it's all to help Canada's military in the Arctic.
This capability that we're delivering them will be used to support jet fighters, aerial drones, Navy ships, forward operating bases.
That's Dan Goldberg, CEO of Telesat. The same Dan Goldberg that is also really, really good friends with Mark Carney. Here, Carney is pictured having a laugh with good friend Dan Goldberg, president and CEO of Telesat. This was in a newspaper article, by the way. Their kids play soccer together. They are on the record saying how friendly they are and how much they love each other. It's a love story. It's like legitimately his best friend. You can't make this up. And God, is it also exhausting. The amount of corruption within our government is insane. Very few people are getting rich in Canada, but they're all doing it on the back of the Canadian government. Or should I say, the Canadian taxpayer who funds the Canadian government so that their buddies can make a lot of money. Same thing happened in Quebec, by the way. Okay. We had this happen for the last 5 years with our current government, which has been giving and handing out money to our Minister of Finance, or was it Minister of Commerce? I don't even remember. He's been giving contract left and right to his buddies. They all failed. We lost billions of dollars. We even invested our CPP version. We have what's called QPP, Quebec Pension Plan, into these projects, and we've written everything off to zero because of these investments. It is cronyism. Textbook definition of cronyism. The government picking winners and losers and giving billions of dollars to their friends. And that's, well, apparently illegal in the country. And don't ask me why. And yes, it's messed up and completely corrupt. So while I was in Spain, the Moroccan invasion of Ceuta happened, and I had plenty of people reaching out to me, asking me, well, how are things on the ground over there? So I'll try to sum it up as best as I can for everyone. See, the Spanish government is run by a socialist named Pedro Sanchez. Earlier this year, he unilaterally, without the approval of the Spanish parliament, regularized the status of 500,000 illegal immigrants, which turned out to become actually closer to 1 million illegal immigrants, because give a man an inch, they'll take a mile. Then the Spanish Supreme Court made a ruling that even in my wildest nightmare or my dumbest fantasy I could not fathom. On June 29th, Spain's Supreme Court issued a ruling stating that authorities cannot summarily deport migrants who arrive by sea without due process because they did not cross the physical border infrastructure referenced in Spanish law. Yeah, that's freaking crazy. Anyway, so somehow 50,000 young fighting-age men organized and stormed the small territory of Ceuta without coordination, or so we're told. Smells fishy to me, but I won't speculate for now on that point. And although Ceuta is full-fledged Spain, it is not located in Europe. Here's a map. You see the tip of Spain and Africa right here, Morocco. And if you zoom in, you're going to see the small, what's called exclave of Ceuta right here. It is very much in northern Africa, very close to Europe, but it is not in Europe. So no, I did not see, sadly, a crazy migrant invasion, although I would have kind of been down to see it. Although I did go to Gibraltar, a British overseas territory at the tip of the Iberian Peninsula. It's located right here. This little section, that's British, actually. And, well, I shot this video. I was located right here. And staring right at me was indeed Ceuta. So I guess I did see it after all, just from 24 kilometers away across the Strait of Gibraltar. And Elon Musk summed it up perfectly by saying it's basic math. If Spain offers free stuff to migrants that is above 90% of the living standards of Earth, they create a forcing function for 90% of Earth to move to Spain, which is around 7 billion people. So it's good to be back, and if you've enjoyed this report and would like to find a way to get yourself involved with the channel, aside from liking, sharing, hyping, commenting, subbing, did I say subbing to the channel, if you would like to contribute financially for all the hard work and research that is done here, well, I have a link in the description to Patreon, it's $8 a month, and or PayPal for a one-time donation if you are so inclined, and the proceeds help me spend more time doing research and putting out content to, again, hopefully one day break the CBC-induced narrative of this country. But for the time being, my name is Elliot Daniel, and I will see you next report.